Yeah, no intros. You know who it is. It's me. HeadCannon is back. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, finally, I've been waiting for this day my whole life. He's returned. He must be back because he watched a great new TV show or saw a movie or something that inspired him to come praise it. But actually, I'm feeling pretty mean this week. I feel like spreading hatred to the world, and I saw something that I am not a fan of, and that would be revisionist history. See, I never thought in the year 2025 we would have people out here that are Lori Grimes defenders, on the loose corrupting society. All my life, ever since I was blessed to watch the show that is The Walking Dead, one of my favorite shows of all time, I at least could rest easy in that everyone hated Lori Grimes as much as I did, and understood that she was a bad person, a bad mother, and most importantly, a bad wife. But lately, I've been seeing some takes on TikTok that say Lori Grimes is misunderstood. Lori Grimes did the best she could. Lori Grimes is allowed to have sex with Shane in the woods. And listen, everyone is entitled to have bad opinions, especially about TV shows and things that don't matter. But what really rubs me the wrong way is that when people disagree with you and you say, well, you're just misogynistic. They say people that like Negan and don't like Lori Grimes are bad people. They say if you like Walter White as a character, but you don't like Skylar White, you don't like women. And this argument is something clearly made in bad faith, or they're just incredibly stupid. Now, the whole Skylar White debate is an argument that I can see the logic behind, much more than the Lori one. I think Skylar White deserves her whole own video. But I don't agree with it. In fact, I think Skylar White being insufferable is 100% intentional, and I don't think Breaking Bad would work half as well as it does if Skylar White wasn't awful. But that's a discussion for another time. First, let's dismantle this whole misogyny thing, which I think 2 points just take off the board completely. The first being, there are tons of female characters in The Walking Dead that everybody universally loves. Everyone loves Maggie, at least up to the point where the writing gets weird in the later seasons. Everybody loves Michonne, etc. That's not even a real conversation. Second, the audience obviously holds villains to a different standard than they hold people that are on the side of their protagonist. Negan is introduced by beating two fan-favorite characters to death. Our frame of reference for how we view an antagonist is completely different to how we're gonna judge people on Rick's side. People on Rick's side are supposed to be the good guys. The reason we judge it differently when Negan shows Rick respect when Spencer's trying to take over, or when he kills Rapey Davy and defends Sasha, is because the bar is in hell for Negan. No one is expecting him to be a hero, so he gets a lot of credit when he does nice things. And if you asked anyone who says they're a fan of Negan, or that Negan is one of their favorite characters, if Negan deserves to die, I bet most of them would say yes. We don't hold bad things Negan does against Negan because we expect him to do bad things, right? We expect Rick's wife to care about Rick. We expect Rick's wife to not be the worst person in the world.
What about everything you just said? About judging a book by its cover?
Well, let's take a look at the contents then, shall we?
But I want to approach this character critique in good faith, so let's just take a look at the timeline and see how it plays out. And boy, the first scene of the show is not off to a very good start for Lori. Rick is talking to Shane in the car and telling him how Lori said something super hurtful at the breakfast table in front of their son. And Rick says that he would never say that Lori doesn't love or care about them in front of Carl. But everybody has bad moments. Maybe it's just not a good look for her. It doesn't necessarily mean she's awful. The next thing we learn about Lori is that she is with Rick's best friend after he has quote-unquote died. Whether you think it's wrong for her to move on so fast or not, that's completely up to you. I think it's completely forgivable, no big deal. But it's the fact that it's with his best friend that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I think the show could have actually tried to justify this in a pretty sympathetic way if they had had her explain that she did this for Carl's sake, right? Because she couldn't protect him and thought attaching herself to Shane was the only way to keep him safe in the apocalypse or something like that. Like, she didn't really love him. She just had to do it to keep her son safe. But they don't do this. All she says when Rick calls her out, because she never admits to sleeping with Shane. He has to find out. All she says is that she thought Rick was dead and she was scared. But what's funny is actually she doesn't even say that. Rick says that for her, trying to defend her from himself almost in the argument where he tells her he knows. And I think we've already reached the point where Lori's not defendable anymore. If she had immediately told Rick when she found out he was alive what happened and all that, and then cut off Shane, I think then she'd be an incredibly sympathetic character and definitely redeemable. Even then, her and Rick would probably have like marriage problems for a while, but I think it'd be fine. But that's not what she does. She lies about this for damn near 2 whole seasons. And she constantly flip-flops on Shane back and forth over and over again. She tells Shane to leave them alone, then she gets mad when Shane leaves Carl alone, then she's like, come back, and then Shane tries to leave, she's like, don't leave. It's insane. She is also constantly undermining Rick in front of everybody on every decision he makes. Which again, I think is kind of defensible considering it's the apocalypse, every decision affects everyone so much. Sure, I'll let it go. But half the time, she is siding with his like literal arch nemesis. It's crazy. Not to mention, she should basically never be talking to Shane regardless after this point. But Shane literally tries to assault her, and she has to claw his neck to get him off her. And she still talks to Shane all the time, still goes back and forth with him, never tells Rick about any of this, because explaining this to Rick would mean coming clean about everything that happened and the context of it. Like, after she learns that Shane is kind of like a dangerous psycho, there is just no justification to ever be talking to this guy or be alone with him ever. The next big thing that happens is that Carl gets shot, and she literally gives up on her own child. That's straight up unforgivable in my eyes for any parent. And it looks even worse considering that the whole show has just been repeatedly hitting us over the head with the fact that Rick's dedication to family is like all he thinks about. And the fact that he's spending the whole season trying to find the missing girl. Like, he's an extremely kind and caring person. And the fact that that's her husband and then she is so far the opposite way makes her look even worse in comparison. And it's one thing if you have feelings like that, I think that's fine. But to say it to Rick after everything Rick has gone through to keep the family together, and you're like, yeah, I think Carl should just die. I mean, that's the problem, is every conversation Lori has, every argument, it is all about how she feels. She does not care how Rick feels. Like, really, who tells someone whose son just got shot that they think it'd be better if he just died? That is insane. And it looked horrible for her when from the second Rick woke up in the hospital, not even knowing if his family was alive, he wandered off to look for them and find them, and has spent every moment protecting them. And I'm a lot like Rick Grimes myself. All I want is to take care of my people, which is why I need you to leave a like, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel.
I'm just a desperate guy trying to feed his family.
You don't have a family.
I'm in a family of one. Okay, wait.
But anyway, like every single time we see Rick the entire show, he is disproving their first argument where she said that she doesn't think he cares about her or Carl. Then she finds out she's pregnant and she decides to get rid of it without even talking to Rick. Rick is like a non-factor in Lori's decision making. It doesn't matter what he thinks, what he feels, anything. He might as well not be there. Rick confronts her about getting with Shane and lying to him this whole time. She immediately starts crying and the argument's all about how she feels again. She shows way more consideration to Shane's feelings than her own husband's feelings, in fact. And that's after Shane tries to attack her. Shane tries to leave. No, I want you to stay. Shane doesn't want to leave. She's like, stay away from me and my family. Over and over and over. She is constantly egging Shane on to try harder. Like, she does not want to let him go. She is a huge factor in Shane and Rick falling out. Now, she's not responsible for Shane's actions, and I think Shane would have ended up fighting Rick overall anyway. He had to be put down. He was unstable. He never would have got the group, even past season 4 probably. And I don't think Shane was wrong about every argument they ever had. I think Rick was way too naive and, good guy in the first couple seasons. But he was still much better than Shane was. And Lori is constantly giving Shane false hope about them and that they'll have a relationship. She is emotionally cheating on Rick damn near all of season 2. The worst crime Lori ever commits, though, in my eyes, in the whole show, is when Rick tells her that Shane led him out in the woods to kill him and that he had to defend himself. And she has the nerve to be angry with him and look at him like he's some kind of monster. After all the bullshit, all the manipulation and lying, she has the audacity to shrink away from his touch after he put him in this traumatizing scenario where he had to kill his best friend. I know people say she was really upset because Carl had to put down Shane and she didn't like that. But guess what? That was her fault too. How, in the apocalypse, where you live on a farm and there's nothing going on ever pretty much, can you not keep an eye on your kid? Carl is constantly wandering off doing stupid shit All Lori has to do is do basic chores and watch her son. The night Rick kills Shane, everyone is in the farmhouse because there's a supposed killer on the loose. And you, in that scenario, you can't keep your child inside? It's the only thing you have to do. Lori is like a terrible mother in this show. There's like 4 cases where Carl is just nowhere to be seen. No one knows where he is. And that's the only responsibility she has. And this is in a world where there are zombies. It's an apocalypse. Just watch your kid. So her being upset at Rick because Carl had to put down Shane, it's her fault that he was out there to put down Shane. I mean, he is constantly out in the woods playing with zombies or stealing guns or sneaking into the cabin that Randall's in to talk to him. You know he's like this. Why have you not learned that this kid needs to be watched? But the nerve when Shane has to kill Rick to act like he is some horrible person when his whole life is dedicated to protecting you and Carl that we've seen on the show. And he has never done a single thing to hurt you or betray you in any way. And that's how you react. Like, that just makes me so mad. Like, it's disgusting.
Obviously, I'm not saying to hit a woman, but saying there's no reason, I think that's crazy.
Now, you could argue in season 3, Lori has some great development. She's way more apologetic. She actually does some self-reflecting and realizes what she's done to Rick and why that's a huge part of why he's become so cold. I mean, she knows that he hates her at this point, and for good reason. And you know what's really sad is that Shane was off his fucking rocker, and there is zero chance he could properly lead the group. But I think the only people that would have stuck with him after it's exposed that he killed Rick would have been Andrea, and then the next most likely person would have been Lori. Daryl never would have accepted him as a leader. Carol would go with Daryl. Herschel's family hated Shane. They never would have followed him, and Glenn would have went with them. T-Dog would probably be gone because he's a good person. Lori is the most likely person that would have followed Shane after killing her husband. But anyway, in season 3, she's trying to be better to Rick, and her and Rick are reconciling before she dies in season 3. I think it's pretty implied they would have got back together and fixed their marriage. But I really doubt that she would have changed or grown at all if Rick didn't start icing her out, for what she did. I mean, he basically divorced her unofficially, right? And he's just still taking care of her because he's a good guy. So I do think that Lori would have redeemed herself had she not died. And that's something that I loved about The Walking Dead so much. They were so good at taking a bad person like Merle and showing you the potential they had, a taste of who they could be, and then killing them at that moment before you get to see it. And it's so tragic, and I think that's a big reason why Lori's death is so emotional. It's one of the best scenes of the whole show. Seeing Carl put her down is gut-wrenching, and the fact that, it was still Rick's wife at the end of the day. And they were so good at taking bad people and making you care about it because how it affects the characters around them. Like Merle dying, we really care because it hurts Daryl so much, right? And the whole group is kind of ready to take him in. He has a chance to change how people see him, to do the right thing, and he dies right before we get a chance to see what that looks like. So Lori is a lot better in season 3. Yeah, she just never gets the time to properly redeem herself, and I think it was a great decision to kill her where they did, and it made the show more interesting overall. I think they had played out her storylines, and there wasn't much more you could do with her. But basically, Lori Grimes is essentially the villain of the first 2 seasons alongside Shane. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love the first 2 seasons. I think her role is great in them. But she's not a good person. Now, if you want to see a video that is essentially the same thing except about Skylar and how she impacts that show, just let me know down in the comments. But either way, HeadCannon is back and we'll be uploading much more consistently around here.
I've made some empty promises in my life, but hands down, that was the most generous.
But that's going to be it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next episode of HeadCannon.